fight that's coming, and it's not looking good. Right now, Trump is declaring a national emergency over the national debt. With us about to reach the limit, he is making some big statements on what needs to go next. But the debt fight is going to really mess up everything when it comes to Donald Trump's agenda, as well as maybe his inauguration being delayed. With that, Trump has blasted GOP McCarthy over the debt ceiling because now we're facing all the issues with it. We have a representative who has come out and talked about what's going to happen next, and it doesn't look good because what Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, is saying is that by January 21st, if we do not raise the debt ceiling, we will default on our obligations. And Trump said that if we don't get this done, this could push us into a depression like 1929. And he is calling for all lawmakers to raise the debt ceiling, as well as criticizing Biden for allowing it to get to the very end before doing something about it. They have planned to do budget reconciliation once Trump gets into office, but if he gets into office on January 20th, we default if the ceiling is not raised on January 21st. This will be a huge mess for the Trump administration going in. Big issues that Trump says we have to do something now. Also, on top of this, guys, Canada becoming a state is actually gaining some traction as many Canadians are voicing their concerns to their prime ministers. We call ours like the politicians, they call them prime ministers, about how to figure out a plan to actually become a part of the United States. Like, this is actually getting some traction. On top of that, Elon Musk has officially came out and endorsed Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House as well. So we can see that when it came to the HB1 program of hiring immigrants to come over and work in the United States, him and Trump were aligned, and now we can see that they're also aligned with their support for Mike Johnson being the next Speaker of the House. Also, on top of that, we have more info coming out on the amount of money that the federal government is sending to states to deal with illegals being incarcerated. And we're talking billions and billions of dollars that the federal government is sending to these states every single year. And instead of deporting these criminals that are undocumented, these blue states are rehabilitating them into the United States as citizens. Guys, you cannot make this stuff up. That is our tagline for the channel. Want to say thank you to everybody that's watching. We've got an amazing show for you tonight. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button so we can serve you Monday through Friday, 2 shows a day, one on Saturday, one on Sunday with all the top news. Thank you to all of our members of the channel. If you want to be a member, the link is in the description to join. And also, thank you to everybody that gives a super chat donation. We are truly grateful for your support in helping us bring a positive change forward by donating online each month. Guys, we've donated now over $20,000 through this channel in the past 4 months. Through your giving and support, we are showing you that we're different than everybody else, and we want to bring a positive change. But let's jump into this. It's breaking news, guys, because the debt ceiling is getting really real on what's about to happen. And I'm telling you, the more and more that we get closer to January 21st, the more that we're about to see that either we're going to default, something's going to happen, or we're either going to actually do what we're supposed to do and cut the dang spending. Check this out.
Vote. The House is going to have an issue with the debt ceiling coming up. The debate to fund the government comes up again before March 14th deadline. So I spoke with Representative Kat Cammack about suspending the debt ceiling, and listen to what she said.
1, it's irresponsible. 2, it's not fair. And again, it is kicking the can down the road. So in no shape, way, form, or fashion have I ever supported a debt ceiling being lifted, because it makes very little sense that we campaign on cutting the size scope of government, cut spending, but then we say, hey, let's get rid of the credit card limit in order to cut spending.
So what do you think about that? Republicans is the party of cutting spending, so just cut the spending and not reach the debt ceiling. What do you think about that?
I think it's a refreshing view. I don't think I've ever voted for a debt ceiling increase. you're seeing more money going up in debt than I'll earn this year by the time I finish this thought even. But every 100 days we add another $1 trillion to the debt.
Wow.
We better start taking it serious. As I said on X, I tweeted it that at Tim Burchett account had over 1 million views, that the problem's going to be with the votes in that room. It wasn't with Elon or Vivek. It was going to be the members having enough guts to do what's right and make those cuts. That remains to be seen. We do this every time. Everybody goes home and preaches to their people and throws out the red meat, and they come back to Washington and they sell our country down the river. I'm hoping that'll change, and I hope Trump cleans it up, because we've got to do something.
Guys, I hate to interrupt y'all, but I want y'all to, they have the debt calculator up there. Every 3 seconds, the debt ceiling goes up by $100,000. Think about that. Every 3 seconds. That is insane that our government has got us to this point.
Do you feel like cuts can be made? I mean, it's one thing to identify the waste. It's another thing to actually do it. I mean, do you think there's an appetite for that in Republicans?
Yeah, I do. But you got so many people that are embedded in these things, and they're compromised. Let's just be honest. They've got investments. They've got family members. They have a wife and or girlfriend that works for some contractor or some lobbyist on K Street or some organization that's going to get some funding, and we'll wink at the Senate and we'll say we're going to make all these cuts, and then the Senate will say we're going to make all these cuts, and guess what? They don't line up, and then we come back and don't do anything, and that's the trick they're going to play. Let's just cut and keep cutting. We talked about cutting the Department of Education, and everybody freaks out. We're not talking about cutting the money to the states. Send the money to the states. Let them be accountable for it instead of Washington, D.C. It's not a one-size-fits-all. There's not one Washington bureaucrat that has ever taught a kid in Carrington, Tennessee, how to read, write, or do arithmetic. And that we could cut. They're worse than the mob. I mean, for goodness sakes, God only takes 10% with tithe. Washington takes a whole lot more off the top, and all they're doing is borrowing from our great-grandchildren, and we know better.
Congressman, we're going to have to see how this all plays out in the first month, I guess. The president-elect seems like he's going to move pretty fast. Representative Tim Burchett.
Guys, I'm telling you, like, the debt ceiling is getting really real. This statement came out. Janet Yellen says the U.S. will hit the debt ceiling mid-January, forcing Treasury to employ extraordinary measures. She doesn't mention that she has been intentionally reducing the cash balance in the government checking account, forcing a debt crisis on Trump when he takes over. Now, Kevin McCarthy gave Biden and Yellen an unlimited debt ceiling through January 1st, 2025. Remember? You could spend as much as you want. It doesn't matter. There's no cap. Guys, that's why we spent $8 trillion in 4 years after the pandemic by Biden and Harris. So now that we're going back into this to actually have a cap on the debt, this is where Trump says we've got to do something. Because if we don't, we are going to run into a depression, and it's going to be on Trump's literally first and second day in office. Not only that, guys, I'm telling you, more people across the states are getting tired of the Democrats spending. Listen to this.
Folks, I'm not sure a lot of those black and Hispanic and younger voters that fell in love with the Trump agenda, where we broke down that Republican wall we couldn't forever, I'm not sure they ever go back. We may be in a really unique spot. Here's an example of what I mean. This is Chicago. Mayor Brandon Johnson, the worst mayor in the country by far. A total disaster. Even the Democrats hate him, right? Here he is at one of these, council meetings right there. And one of the citizens of Chicago, I always ask the question, is it bad enough yet? Well, it is for this guy. Check this out.
We are $1 billion in debt. That's absolutely insane. Kamala Harris, she spent $1 billion on her campaign less than a year, and she's $20 million in debt. So it's looking like Democrats are bad with money.
Ooh!
Now, you ignored me for 10 to 15 seconds last time I was speaking, and I really did not appreciate that at all. But I got a Christmas present for you. Let's remind the people of Chicago that Brandon Johnson spent $32,000 in campaign funds on haircuts and makeup. So I got an early Christmas present for you, Brandon Johnson. This is some makeup for you right here. You got some rouge. You got the makeup brush right there, so you can save this people some money for crying out loud.
People are fed
You
up.
see my point? You think this guy's going back? You think this guy's going to go back in the next election and vote for Kamala Harris if they run her again? You know, there's this awakening that happens that only goes in one direction. When liberals realize they've been lied to by government and their money's been stolen, they almost never go back. You see a ton of liberals who became conservative. You see very little what David Brock types that pretended to be Republican and then go the other way. It's usually some money component. You know, like, what's her name over at MSNBC who pretended to be a Republican. They'll take a paycheck. It doesn't matter. But you see very few people on principle who go back the other direction. It's like when your eyes are open and this awakening happens, you just simply can't go back to sleep. But, caveat emptor, buyer beware. We have got to string together a series of wins. Tying this back to the beginning of the show. That's why this CR was such a tactical misstep. And Johnson and others, Speaker Johnson, should have known better. We just won an election. People want to see results. They want to see you acting like it. We don't want more of what we just got rid of. Look at this segment, by the way. Another piece of news just broke in the last few hours. The Wall Street Journal has an amazing piece about Joe Biden. With the extent the Biden White House went to cover up this guy's cognitive train wreck going on, folks, it's bad. I warned you about it. I told you I had sources there. I'd never lied to you. I told you the guy, this condition was worse than you knew. We were right again. The batting average is 1,000, correct? Look at this. Biden's been in office 4 years. He does this interview just the other day. He just realized inflation's a problem for the Biden White House. Folks, I candidly, I'm not even sure if he even knows about inflation. Someone told him about it before the interview. Watch this.
One thing that we haven't been able to change yet, is starting to change, is that you go to a grocery store, a dozen eggs, a gallon of milk, a pound of bacon, still costs more than it did before the pandemic. That's a lot of money for people. It's taken time to change that. So there's reason for frustration, but there's gigantic change been made.
Is this guy taking a shot at comedy? Is he for real? Does he not understand? Like, did someone just wake him up this morning and shake him and say, hey, listen, inflation's been a problem? Here's the best part of this, though. Not that Biden's like yesterday's news. The guy's the president in name only at this point. He's the Pino. Everybody knows that, right? I want you to watch this. This is a short clip, too, but here's Biden hilariously lecturing America and politicians about using your office to grift, to grift and make money. If this is not peak Joe Biden, I've never seen it. Joe Biden lecturing people about grifting. This is an instant classic. Check this out.
You know, I don't know how you look your constituents in the eye and know because the job they gave you an inside track to make more money.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of at a real genuine loss for words. I'm having trouble stringing together syllables into words, into sentences. That Joe Biden, not even the king, like the Star Wars like emperor with Jedi like powers of grifting, is lecturing politicians about grifting is freaking hilarious. I told you, Joe Biden's the smartest guy in the room. Just ask him. This is a guy he is a sociopath when it comes to his own personality. He has zero social IQ at all. And everything they told you, folks, was bullshit. And it's all coming around to haunt him. I saw this yesterday. I wanted to play this clip for you. Now that we know, I played it for you yesterday, the update. You remember the Aurora, Colorado apartment takeover by Tren de Aragua? And we were told by the liberal media and the Biden team and everyone that that's a conspiracy theory. There are no Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes. Well, it's happened. We now know they not only took it over, they tortured people. The torture was disgusting. Honestly, I'm not even going to talk about it. I heard about it on Fox and Friends. I had to turn the volume down. I was so grossed out. Now we know it's true. Our batting average is 1,000 yet again. Remember this gem from Martha Raddatz questioning J.D. Vance about gang members making out like it wasn't a big deal. Go read if you're into really gross, crazy stuff, what these people did to these people in Aurora, Colorado. Check this out.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border?
You know what, Key? I'm just thinking, move that CNN one ahead of Pierre, because this is perfect for this.
You can't make this
How
up, guys.
liberals, I know you watch my show. I get your death threats and stuff, okay? It's part of the business. I don't like it. I am abjectly against violence. But, you know, I get your nasty death threats, especially, you seem to like Facebook a lot. I always get them on Facebook. At what point do you say to yourself, again, I can't bring this up enough, like, I'm not going to change your voting behavior. I get that. You're obviously a communist and you like that stuff. But how often are you going to be lied to? Like, don't you want accurate information? I mean, when you go into a store, don't you want, remember they used to have the prices on the thing? Like, don't you want that to be the actual price? Like, you don't want to go to the register and be surprised. That said $4.99. No, it's $7.99. Yeah, but the price said $4.99. Yeah, we're surprising you at the register. Like, do you ever say to yourself, I just want to like believe what's advertised? You guys are lied to all the time by CNN, ABC, NBC, MSNBC. Vote for whoever you want. When is the bullshit enough?
Guys, sorry. Oh my goodness. Didn't catch those. But guys, let me tell you this. Because, you know, I want to keep the show clean as possible. So you see this, guys. We got two things on the horizon. We got the national debt. We got Biden's decline just happening to come out that everybody's like, oh, he's in decline. And everybody's like, are you kidding me? But this is the thing. So I showed you earlier today, guys. This happened earlier this morning. Look at the bottom. The White House, we're literally in the midst of a debt ceiling. Biden decides to send another 2.5 billion, not million. Remember, it takes 1,000 million to make a 1 billion. So $2.5 billion to Ukraine in the midst of us almost having an entire government shutdown, again, because we just ran out of money. But I want to say thank you so much, Andy, for the super chat. Let's go. Said two of them. Said, I can't believe Donald Trump surrendered so easy to the Democrats and the rhinos. I hope he get what's coming to him. I don't know who's worse, Donald Trump or Joe Biden. They are the same to me. And he also says, I bought it for him. Now I regret it. Democrat got what they wanted, the speaker back. Let me tell you this, guys. I am just perplexed that Donald Trump has endorsed Mike Johnson for speaker. I'm perplexed that Donald Trump and Elon Musk have both endorsed him. I don't know what the heck's going on behind the scenes. All I know is Donald Trump wants to get into office. Y'all show Andy some love in the chat. But this is what he had to say, because he said this. This is literally his post from Truth Social. The extension of the debt ceiling by a previous Speaker of the House, a good man and a friend of mine, from the past September of the Biden administration to the June of the Trump administration, will go down as one of the dumbest political decisions made in years. There was no reason to do it. Nothing was gained, and we got nothing for it. True. A major reason why that speakership lost, guys, he's talking about McCarthy, if you don't know. It was Biden's problem, not ours. Now it becomes ours. I call it 1929 because of the Democrats don't care what our country may be forced into. In fact, they would prefer depression as long as it hurts the Republican Party. The Democrats must be forced to take a vote on this treacherous issue now during the Biden administration and not in June. They should be blamed for this potential disaster, not the Republicans. I'm telling you, it is getting very serious with what we've heard from Janet Yellen, what we're seeing, that January 21st, guys, you cannot make this up. One day after Trump is inaugurated, the cap is hit. If we do not raise the debt ceiling, we are running into default, and it's going to look very, very bad on Trump in terms of his first day as president. So what is next? They got to raise the debt ceiling somehow, but I don't think it's going to get done. Thank you so much, Wanda Blevins, for becoming a member of the True Life fam. Y'all show Wanda some love in the chat. But the biggest other news story, guys, too, is because they're trying to push back and saying that Biden has been in a decline for a long time and that he should the people around him should be held accountable for it, and that it should fall right now on the Democrats for propping him up. All this whole government spending, the national debt. Listen to this.
He is bitter. With just 21 days to go, President Biden seems to be spending his final stretch wallowing in self-pity, angry and resentful as he braces for his legacy to be obliterated. For example, while addressing the nation on the loss of President Jimmy Carter, Joe Biden couldn't help but take a cheap shot at President-elect Donald Trump.
Thank you. President Trump to take from President Carter?
Decency. Decency. Decency.
That dude looks like he's dead.
And that's not his only grievance. Joe Biden told the public that he has no regrets, but behind closed doors, he's full of them. The big guy regrets dropping out of the 2024 race and thinks he could have beat Trump if his own party hadn't shoved him out the door.
Ooh.
He's also furious that his lawfare was a dud. Quote, in private, Biden has also said
I told you guys, we called it. It was a coup. And now look what's happening now. All the truth is coming out. They 100% forced this dude out of office.
Should have picked someone other than Merrick Garland as Attorney General, complaining about the Justice Department's slowness under Garland in prosecuting Trump and its aggressiveness in prosecuting Biden's son, Hunter. But Joe isn't the only one with regrets. His friends in the liberal media now feel bad, covering up his obvious cognitive decline. Watch.
Undercovered, underreported. That would be, to me, Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline that became undeniable in the televised debate. It's starting to emerge now that his advisors kind of managed his limitations. It's been reported in the Wall Street Journal for 4 years, and yet he insisted that he could still run for president. We should have much more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office for another 4 years, which could have led to a primary for the Democrats. It could have changed the scope of the entire election.
So, Kennedy, how do you feel about these journalists now saying it's evident that Joe Biden had a cognitive decline all of a sudden?
Jan Crawford is not going to be popular at the CBS New Year's Eve party. Let me tell you that right now. She has been red-pilled. And my question is, hey, Jan, what took you so long? You know, it's like the evidence was there. There were a lot of us talking about all of this for years and years and years, you know, before 2020, saying, well, it was pretty obvious why Obama didn't pick Biden to be his successor in 2016, because he didn't think he was up for the job. And, you know, there was a lot of decline for him between 2016 and 2020. And even in 2020, he didn't believe in himself. And he said, I'm a transitional candidate. I'm only going to be president for 4 years, dead people. And, you know, then we were stuck with him. They bypassed the primary process, and that wasn't him alone. That was his handlers. That was the party. That was the Democrat establishment. That was Jeffrey Katzenberg. It was the donors. It was the fundraisers. Anyone who had access to him, anyone, not just the last person in the room, Kamala, but anyone knew that he was in cognitive decline. Anyone who has had a family member who has experienced things like Alzheimer's and dementia, they know what they were seeing, and they did nothing about it because he was hungry for power. He wanted to hold on to it. His family pushed him to hold on to it, and everyone else around him knew that him maintaining the presidency was a condition of their employment. So they said and they did nothing until now. Those words are absolutely empty and meaningless.
Yeah, the public is that he believes he should have picked a different attorney general because Merrick Garland did not engage soon enough in the lawfare to take him off of the campaign trail. I mean, that is a democracy-ending principle if you want to throw your opponents in jail because you can't run against them.
I had to read that part of the story like 4 times because I was like, there's no way that he's blaming the picking of Merrick Garland because Merrick Garland wasn't politicized enough against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It was, and the whole article was so delusional. And the idea that he, you know, if he had stayed in the race, he was going to beat Donald Trump is laughable. I also think it's kind of interesting that if you know, it was all these anonymous sources. You had the Harris camp and you had the Trump camp, and the Biden camp, and they're whispering behind the scenes.
each of them pointing fingers at the other. Because the Harris campaign says, oh, if he had gotten out sooner, I would have been able to beat him. And it's like, no, you spent over $1 billion in 100 days and lost.
Still lost.
If she had had 200 days, she would have lost worse, I think. And so the whole thing is complete. You're right. Delusion is a marvelous drug.
Guys, and this is the thing. It doesn't stop there. The amount of information that's coming out over Biden's decline is so laughable. Lay Lewis, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's go. Said all the Dems need to be held accountable for all this mess, 100%. Because again, too, we're finally seeing what they're finally talking about all the mess that we've been seeing for so long. And again, too, guys, it starts with looking at yourself. Because the Republicans have not been perfect through any of this. They've added to the debt just as much as the Democrats have. Right here, this is a total endorsement coming from Trump. Trump said, by backing Representative Mike Johnson for Speaker of the House, Trump signals a clear path forward for the GOP to focus on legislative priorities and capitalize on the momentum of his 2024 victory. On top of that, we have now Elon Musk, who follows Trump in endorsing Mike Johnson for House Speaker by the leading report. Remember, there's a lot of things happening, guys. I got something to show you in just a moment because remember, I told you earlier, we're going to get into this in just a moment, but the January 6th prosecutor, the leading prosecutor, actually, who's now resigning, is now, they're now looking into him from the perspective of, did he tamper with the evidence? Did he manipulate the court's findings to try to put these in jail? Because remember, 1,500 people went into jail. And I'm about to show you something in a minute because our girl, I'm telling you, I love the pit bulls, guys. Our girl, Representative Marjorie Greene Taylor, is going after that prosecutor now that he has resigned. But check this out, because a lot of people are excited about Trump's second term.
Tell you what I think Americans are sick of. Joe Biden, uncommon nonsense that comes out of the Democratic Party. And they're sick of feeling like this country has been running in place, stuck in quicksand for the last 4 years. 3/4 of Americans think we're on the wrong track. But there are hints of optimism in the American people. There was a CBS News survey that came out last weekend, and more Americans thought that Donald Trump would increase peace and stability in the world than that he would not. So you can start to feel the green shoots of optimism. And so when I look ahead to what he's going to do at the inaugural and what he could do in the first 100 days of his administration, I hope he senses that from the American people, hits the ground running, and strikes the optimistic notes, because I think people are tired of having weak leadership that has taken us off in the wrong direction. He has a real opportunity here to do something amazing, and I hope he does it.
Guys,
tell you what I think Americans are sick of.
Guys, and just think about it. How many of these people, like what I'm about to show you right now, have literally came out and resigned now that Trump's about to get into office? Remember, Washington, D.C. U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves has now resigned ahead of Trump taking office. And what you're about to see next is, yeah, you may have resigned from office, but guess what? We're still coming after you. Thank you so much, Michelle Eisner, for the super chat. Member of the channel. Let's go. Y'all show Michelle and Lay Lewis some love in the chat, everybody. Check this out.
It's being reported that Matthew Graves has resigned from the Department of Justice. Matthew Graves is a U.S. attorney that has spent his time under Biden's Department of Justice prosecuting thousands of January 6 defendants. He also had the unique responsibility not only to be able to prosecute people like those that walked in the Capitol on January 6 of 2021, or even stood outside the Capitol, which was absolutely such a miscarriage and abuse of power. Truly something we've never.
I don't know if you caught that. People that were just standing outside the Capitol, they didn't go inside, were also prosecuted. That's why, listen to this. You're going to love this.
seen in our history, but he had the unique responsibility to prosecute crime in Washington, D.C., Brian, and it was remarkable how he let so many prosecutions go of everyday criminals in our nation's capital. We're talking murderers, rapists, carjackers, drug dealers, some of the worst criminals that Washington, D.C. police would arrest. Matthew Graves would drop their cases and instead harness the power of his office and turn them brutally against January 6 defendants. And the weight of the prosecutions were so unbearable for some of these January 6 defendants that I know of at least 5, and there may be more, and forgive me if I don't know of this situation, but at least 5 of them ended up committing suicide over the past few years, one of them being Matthew Perna, and others. And this has been such a stain on our nation's history, but it was Matthew Graves was the one, the U.S. attorney, that brought this against Americans, all for a lie. All for a lie, Brian. They said it was an insurrection on January 6th. They absolutely lied, and they persecuted people. And American taxpayer dollars was used to persecute these people. They imprisoned them in the most horrific circumstances, horrific conditions, solitary confinement, horrible conditions. And this has gone on for years. And I just want you to know, this man, if he resigned today, this is not the end for him.
Right here,
because
guys,
we are about to take over, and we're going to be in charge. And I think he should pay for what he has done to these people.
Boom. Mic drop, baby. Guys, she's talking about this guy right here. This is the guy that went after all of them. And can you believe that? It's heartbreaking to say that 5 or more people were so hounded down by this guy that they committed suicide. A lot of them were just standing outside, guys, and they got persecuted by this guy for just being there on the Capitol. They didn't even go in. How horrible is that? Thank you so much, Andy, for the super chat again. Let's go. He said, can't believe how easy people change overnight. Special as someone that you believe and put your trust in. Everything that you need to do is to invite Joe Biden, the speaker, in your house for dinner. Wow. Thank you so much, Andy, for the super chat. And Michelle Eisner again with the super chat. Let's go, guys. Y'all are so amazing. Y'all show Michelle and Andy some love in the chat. There's a rude awakening coming for these people. And just like you just heard her, Marjorie Taylor Greene? Sorry, guys. There's a lot going on right now. She literally said, guess what? We're coming. We're coming for you. It's not going to stop here. We're going to make sure that you're held accountable for all the stuff that you did, because you should be held accountable for what you did against the American people. And not only that, guys, remember I told you about the border, the immigration, Homan? They're literally taking it to the next level. Homan said, I'm going to be fighting politicians and Democrats more than I am going to be illegals. We've got a real problem that I'm telling you, there's going to be some crazy fighting going on. Check this out.
Trashing anyone who wants to enforce our nation's immigration laws as heartless. And it looks like Tom Homan is the very first target.
We have someone who doesn't know what he's doing. And, this idea of, you're illegal and then you go out and have a child. It's not quite that simple, especially when you have people that are doing things like seeking asylum.
For Tom Homan to say that, I think it just shows you again the heart of cruelty, the dark heart that he and Trump administration folks have for these migrants. They like to dehumanize them.
Joining me now to respond is Tom Homan, incoming borders are for the Trump administration. Tom, I would love to hear Julian Castro's assertion of President Biden and the Democrats' hearts as it pertains to Laken Riley, Rachel Morin, Jocelyn Nungari. But they say you have a cold heart. Your response?
Wow.
Well, they should have worn my shoes for 34 and a half years and dealt with the tragedies I've dealt with. Standing back for a tractor trailer in 1910 put my feet, including a 5-year-old boy, that all baked to death. He should have been with me when I talked to the little girls as young as 9 years old that were raped multiple times by members of cartels, and look in their eyes and everything innocent and pure is stolen from her. They should have been with me when I talked to the angel moms and dads whose children were buried. You know, I want to talk about family separation. They buried their children because an illegal alien killed their child. Like you said, you know, I've been very serious. I've been very blunt that right out of the gate we're going to concentrate on public safety threats. And you want to talk about heartless? I got mayors and governors who say they're going to do everything they can to prevent me from arresting public safety threats. How many young girls got to be raped and murdered and burned alive until they understand that protecting community is not community is not heartless? Look, what's heartless is opening the border that results in a 600% increase in sex trafficking. What's heartless is over 250,000 Americans die from fentanyl poisoning from an open border. What's heartless is that cartels making billions of dollars. And what's heartless is the number of migrants who died crossing this border under Joe Biden, a record number, almost 4,000. I mean, how many lives have to be lost, migrants and U.S. citizens, until they get a sense that a secure border saves lives? You want to call me heartless, call me heartless. I'm going to do what I'm going to do exactly what I say. I'm going to do it without apology. We're going to save lives, bottom line.
Yeah, Tom, that's so well said. And someone who's always left out of the equation, to your exact point, is this. This is Chris Olivares, spokesperson with the Texas Department of Public Safety. He posted this just a few days ago. Texas DPS troopers recovered 2 unaccompanied female children left abandoned by a smuggler in Eagle Pass who fled to Mexico, and 2 children from El Salvador, ages 5 and 9. And all they had was a note with an address and a phone number. Tom, I have a 5-year-old. My 5-year-old cannot walk across the street by herself. She certainly can't make it to the southern border. Why does Julian Castro and Jasmine Crockett never speak about these children? Why didn't Kamala Harris visit the emergency intake facilities where these children were on suicide watch lists? They never speak about these children.
No, you want to talk about, under Biden administration, over 500,000 children have been trafficked in this country. They lost track for 340,000 of them. And many of these children are going to be in sex trafficking and forced labor. President Trump is committed to finding these children, rescuing these children, because many of them are going to are living a life of hell every day. You know what's heartless is politicians like Crockett and Castro who covered up the open border, who didn't ever speak up about the children of sex trafficking in this country, didn't speak up about the number of aliens that are dying crossing the border. While you and I are talking right now, women are being raped by members of the cartels as a part of the fever crossing that border. A child will die tonight on the southern border. That's heartless. And all these people are cowards, because for 4 years they didn't say anything. They didn't push back on the administration. They didn't talk about the open borders, how many Americans and migrants are dying. They didn't talk about the sex trafficking. They're heartless.
They never
President
did.
Trump is committed to secure the border and save lives. We're going to find these children. We're going to save these children. And we're going to run a deportation operation. We'll get rid of Tren de Agua that killed so many young ladies in this country. We're going to get rid of criminals. We're going to get rid of gang members. We're going to make this country safe again. President Trump's going to make this country safe.
You know, if there's anything that bothers me, is that none of these big outlets like CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC never mentioned the amount of over 300,000 children that have gone missing under DHS. They never did. And that is the most heartbreaking thing of what you're hearing. But this is reality right now for a lot of people because the administration created this issue.
Safe again. We're going to make the border great again. We're going to make this country great again. So they can call me all the names they want. Tom Homan isn't going anywhere. Tom Homan isn't shutting up. Tom Homan's going to do this job because I committed to President Trump. We're going to do the best thing we can for America, and that's secure border. Secure border saves lives.
Yeah, Tom, I only have a few moments here, but I do want to get your reaction to reporting. The Mexico government has announced that they will have an app. This app, according to Axios and what they've announced, is going to allow those who are in detention, Mexican citizens, people who crossed illegally, to alert a Mexican consulate that they're in detention. Is that going to stop you from doing your job?
Good for them. We're going to deport them, so maybe it's good they notify the consulate they're on their way, because they're going to be deported. We're going to do this job, and we're going to run the biggest deportation operation the country ever seen. And we're going right out of the gate, criminals and national security threats and fugitives. We're going to do this job. So, app or not, we're doing this operation. Probably a good thing. Hey, I'm coming home because the Trump administration deported me. Give them a heads up. I'm okay with that.
Well, majority
guys, what a pit bull. I love it. I want to show you a quick snapshot, guys. that there literally is no words for what you're about to see on the screen. So the sanctuary states receiving SCAP money, which is literally, this is American taxpayer money being given as financial assistance to states for the cost incurred for incarcerating undocumented criminal aliens. Rick Robatali, let's go with the super chat. Hey, and I believe you're from Canada. That's awesome. Y'all show Rick some love in the chat. Let's go. So this is just a handful of these states that instead of deporting them, they're keeping them here. They're trying to rehabilitate them to become American citizens. 63 million for California. Of course, they've got the most. New York, New Jersey. Guys, this is just a snapshot. This is not every state of how much money goes out, your taxpayer dollars, that it would literally cost probably 100th of the amount of money that we spend to try to keep these criminals here instead of just sending them to what? To their own country. And guys, I want to show you this. Elon Musk just posted this, and this is truly what we're in right now. He said, we live in a bureaucracy and not a democracy. That will change after January 20th. Because the real threat to democracy is all the elitists, all the career politicians, all the people that feel they've got to tell you how to live your life because you're too dumb to make the best decision for yourself and your family. That's why they want to get into every single thing, every single aspect of your life. They want to get into your healthcare, into your schooling. They want to get into your housing, just everything. But I want to show you one thing too, because there's a lot of fighting going right now over immigrants coming in, HB1 visas, and taking Americans' jobs. And I'm kind of torn. I finally like that Elon Musk came out and said, well, if you're going to hire HB1, then you need to pay a fee. You need to give back to America more because you just stepped over an American citizen to hire somebody that was not an American citizen. Listen to this.
Fiery debate online in the MAGA community on H1B visas for foreign workers, saying, quote, I've always liked the visas. I've always been in favor of the visas. That's why I have them. We have them. I have many H1B visas on my properties. I've been a believer in H1B. I've used it many times. It's a great program. Our next guest writes that this disagreement we're seeing in the GOP camp, well, it's okay. It's how politics should work. Author of the op-ed, David Marcus, joins us now. Good morning, David. I think you're right. I think you're unassailably right. But it was contentious there for a while. Maybe still is, but it was contentious on the right over this debate.
Got a little zesty, a little bit like a Cowboys-Eagles game, right?
Oh, God. So, yeah, here's David, Eagles fan coming in, taking his swipe this morning. What 41-7? We're going to set that aside and deal with the less contentious debate here. That's H-1B visas.
Sounds good. Look, I think both Ramaswamy and Musk got out a little over their skis. Vivek's weird diatribe about American kids having too many sleepovers really, kind of went over like a ton of bricks. And then Musk was saying, I wish I had twice as many foreign workers. And you had a lot of America First Trump supporters saying, hey, buddy, read the room. And where we landed is, and President Trump sees this, is with really legitimate competing interests here. Yes, we absolutely want to attract the best and the brightest of the United States. We also want to make sure that kid who graduates with a degree in architecture isn't facing unfair foreign competition that's not only going to undercut him in terms of wages, but an H-1B visa holder, you lose your job, you get deported. That's an awful lot of leverage that you're handing over to owners. So, again, legitimate competing interests and a good debate has come out of it.
Well, I want to go in just a moment. I want to go back to the real healthy side of this. But the point you're also making, this debate has legitimacy both on a deep philosophical level and on a surface policy level, meaning we should be talking about H-1B visas and how they're being abused and the problems in that system. And hopefully President Trump, I think he does based upon his first term, sees that and might go about correcting those problems in the policy. And then there's the philosophical stuff. Hey, America first. Shouldn't you be prioritizing the interest of Americans?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And, this is the United States of America, and you can be the richest man in the world. It's not going to protect you from blowback when American citizens feel like, you're not putting them first. And look, I think Musk has walked some of this back. He now says that he thinks that it should be very expensive to hire an H1B visa applicant. And I think that's absolutely right. And that speaks to really, the point that he was making was, he says he's talking about like NBA stars. I want the Albert Einsteins, and that's fine. But that's a very different conversation than accountants and graphic designers and people who are holding jobs that American citizens need.
That's exactly right. And then if the American worker is told, hey, we need to import workers to pick crops, you're not going to do that. And oh, by the way, we also need these really highly skilled jobs to import. What are you leaving the American worker with? What are you telling the American worker they're good for if you need to bring people from across the world to do jobs on all ends of the spectrum?
I don't know. It's sitting at home, scrolling on your screen and ordering from Amazon, I presume, right?
Right.
And that's also part of the cultural question here that I think Ramaswamy kind of kicked the door down of, which is that, look, most Americans don't want to work 80 hours a week until they die to make, big tech more money. That's not the American dream. And the American government doesn't exist to help billionaires make more money. It exists to help everyday Americans live the way they want to live, not as cogs in some machine.
I really like that point, David, because there's more to a country and more to a person than your economic output. That is important, but there is way more to a nation than its GDP. Last, because this is the crux of what you wrote about. This is good.
This whole thing, my stance is, again, too, why are these rich, huge, multi-billion-dollar companies this is the stuff I had no idea about, but this is why you come here, because I'm going to show you the truth, guys. We literally have, look, this is state government positions. This is from the HB1 program. This is from their website. In North Carolina, Knoxville, Tennessee, Jackson, Mississippi, hiring English teachers from overseas immigrants to come in and teach our students English. You cannot make this up. This is about the craziest thing I have ever seen come from this type of program, where how in the world would math, understand. How about even social studies? But English, you're going to pull in an immigrant to come to the United States is their English even good to teach our own students English? Maybe that's why our test scores are so bad, because of this type of stuff. Stepping over Americans to hire an immigrant when there's plenty of people here that could use the jobs. That's where we're at. That's why we need the change. I feel like big time, a lot of things. Remember, guys, the whole point of Trump coming in, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, whether you agree with them or not, what I love is that there is things getting exposed that people can't unsee. And when you can't unsee it, then you hold people accountable. I think that just by Trump getting elected, our country will forever never be the same. And I'm happy for that. I want to see change, because there's so much dumb policy that's run by these bureaucrats, these career politicians, that things need to change. Want to say thank you to everybody. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. I'm here to serve you Monday through Friday, 2 shows a day, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, to make sure you have the top news. And I promise you're going to see things on this channel that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you to all of our members. If you haven't hit the thumbs up like button, please do so. It really does help the channel. If you want to be a member, the link is in the description to join. Thank you to everybody that gives a super chat donation. Guys, it means so much to me, because we use this money and we give back to charity on this channel, so that you know that I'm a big giver. I love to give back to bring a positive change. Thank you so much, Andy, Leigh Lewis, Michelle Eisner. Thank you so much, Rick Rabatali. Y'all show them some love in the chat. We are on the precipice of one of the biggest changes in our society. We're either going to make changes, or we're going to keep going the way that we are. And I feel like United States has a time limit right now, because we can only go for so long with this amount of debt. We can only go for this long with running things the way they are, where we get taxed when we get paid, we get taxed whenever we buy things, we get taxed every single year on our cars and our houses, we get taxed on pretty much everything that we do multiple times. It's going to take a real awakening from a lot of people to get the right people in office. And remember, I showed you earlier, the term limits matter. If we get term limits right now with what Trump wants, then think about it. 75% of the House of Representatives are gone in 2 years. 46% of the senators in 2 years, gone, because that's how long they've been there, past 12 years. We need new awakening in the United States. Love you all. Appreciate you so much. Appreciate your support. We are here to serve you. Love everybody in the chat. I'm going to get some quick shout outs. Tarina Smith, Mr. Norby, GLO, Pam Campbell, QDA, Tarina Smith, The Imaginator, GLO, B1 Sly One, Judy Lynn, Camp Goer 1. Guys, I appreciate y'all so much. Appreciate the members. We're here for you. America first, baby. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.